Thanks for inviting me in this open meeting. And my previous speakers have really pointed out some very important points. I'm going to just focus on a few issues that I am worried about. So there's many discussion about the positives of this policy in the media, but I'll cut straight to the negative points that I think they're being. So it says in the draft that they're going to. So, Siddhartha, can you mute yourself because I'm getting a feedback? So this policy essentially says that we must recruit the very best and brightest minds to enter the teaching profession. So, but we need that. This is going to need a massive financial aid in terms of both infrastructure and research funding afterwards. But as we know that in the last few years, the government allocation on this higher education have been steadily falling. So it also says that uh, the, the policy says that we should set up at least one or one higher education institution in each district or near each district. So, so in an optimistic scenario, we are talking about 740 of such institutions. So we are going to need a lot of teaching power in these institutes. But now, before I make my next point, let me show this nice plot. So what it shows is that this government launched this Skill India mission, which enrolled around 6 million candidates. And if you look at the number of the enrollments and the employments after the skills were taught, there is a huge gap. There's like 1/4 of people who are enrolled for jobs. So essentially, we need to create more jobs, and maybe we need more quality teachers. So this is just an example of that fact that we need more quality teachers at these stages. So, but who knows what is going at the jobs frontier? So I'm going to just focus at the teachers' perspective here. If we look at the number of vacant posts across the various institutes in our country, there's around 30 to 40% of posts which are unfilled in all these kind of universities, IITs, NITs, etc. So these posts need to be filled immediately before we think about any more grand plans. Now, if we look at the number of, so here I'm just trying to show that if you look at the number of temporary teachers in these universities and colleges, it's just a little bit lower than the number of full professors or the equivalent positions. So my view is that as it is claimed in the policy, if you try to hike up the number of these institutes by a large number, you also need a large number of teachers, and these institutes will hike up these numbers with temporary lecturers because, of course, they won't have funds from the government because it is steadily dropping. And who knows what the private sectors will offer. And if the government aided institutes hire the temporary lecturer jobs, they pay maybe 1/4 or 1/5 of the total the full assistant professor's salary, then this is going to lead to a very unpleasant situation, which I think that in schools regarding the para teacher situation, they were told that they are going to get their jobs. They will have a stable situation in 10 years or so, but it's a complete fiasco. So I think that if you try to implement this policy very quickly, then you are going to see such a similar situation in the universities as well. Now, I'll show another interesting thing that I found recently. That so here in this picture on the on the right you have this how much amount of GDP one country spends on the higher educations, and on the y-axis you have the numbers of researchers in per million. So India is at very close to the x-axis, which means is that the numbers of researchers in India is very less compared to the big giants. So though this policy looks very fancy, and of course you can argue that we are going to follow some of the Western models or something like that. Uh, but it really says that this huge gap in the researchers also reflect on the quality teachers, because the Indian government is now cutting out funds in research and developments. So whenever you are saying that you are going to implement a 4-year graduation program, where on the 4th year you are going to keep the option of research, so that it's really a worrying thing, because where are you going to the lecturers or the faculties who can carry out such a thing at colleges? If you keep dropping the funds for the PhDs and something like that. So, and even after that, if somebody comes from a 4-year undergraduate program, then you offer him a 1-year master's, then it is going to lead to a very bad situation in the PhD, I guess. So just end my talk here, but I'll point out a few things. That is, first of all, the government allocated funds are not going to be enough, and clearly in the policy as well, the government is seeking private help. So both PG and UG educations are going to be much more costly, and the kind of scenario which we see in United States, maybe we are looking at a very bad student loan situation in 10, 20 years or something. Uh, Now, of course, the policy stresses on the short-term vocational training, which apparently sound like a good idea, but of course, the government is relieving itself of the responsibility of any serious job security, or the responsibility of creating long-term jobs. In the meantime, the people who are going to profit from all this are the internet service providers and mobile companies and the new edtech industry. And another issue was raised by one of my previous speakers, that the science students, they can't possibly learn in the Indian or local languages if they want to stay in academia, or if they want to move around the country uh, while they're students. And for me, the main concern still remains about the appointment of new lecturers in colleges or universities, or the so-called higher education institutions. So